Alright, so we're switching over to Great Ace Attorney for a little bit. Eating the Pokemon Oreo. Yeah, I would think about Pokemon Oreo, but I don't really care about it too much to eat the get the Oreo. Plus, I heard like there's a lot of controversy with that. Let's see. Keep the packaging, of course. The only packaging I kept is the Mario cereal, the Mario Odyssey cereal, because it has an amiibo on it. Alright, there we go. Switched it. Alright, gotta do my pack opening for Rivers.
Oh, heck yeah. Alright. Got a really tough missile pack.
Usually for Oreos, I usually eat a lot of it as well. Either way. Sounds like I'm just like going to the having a lullaby here. Girl with chocolate, cause TMI. Of course. Alright. Let's see what Rivers pick, because we got some energies. Got a Galarian Stunfish. Coding energy. Got a Shuckle. Nincada. Voltorb. Rockruff. Whismer. And Trubbish. Another Shuckle, but it's reverse hollow. And the rare card is a Orbeetle V. Not bad. I don't have an Orbeetle V, so it's not bad. It's alright, in my opinion. It's another rare card. Never got any of the unique pulls, is what I would say. Like the... what was it? The... what should I say? Alt art. Alternative art. Yeah. I never got any of those yet. I hope I do. There's still a lot to go through this. Give me a second. I'm just gonna do something really quickly while I do this. I do my dailies or not dailies, just more mobile stuff.
Wouldn't that be dailies?
No, it's not dailies. It's just like trying to do something before it's too late kind of thing. It's not dailies per se. It's like a daily, but not really a daily. So how are you doing in Metroid Dread right now?
I think I'm already halfway.
I'm halfway there.
I mean, this is me not really exploring as much. Just let's be clear.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, did I? Wait, this is funny. Okay, yeah. Okay, I've already been here.
You have already been here. Oh.
I keep forgetting that I don't have the space jump. Ah.
Looking at Andre's and Biz's stream, looks like they're having fun with the karaoke night right now.
Oh yeah, that.
Alright. Oh, I should get my Great Ace Attorney game out because I did not even put it back in because I was getting the Pokemon special like stuff.
Oh?
You know the shiny Celebi and stuff like that I posted earlier?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That stuff.
Got it.
That's like I had to put in Sword just to put in that. And I still haven't played the Test by Sugar. Alright, no worries, Mick. I still haven't even played the DLC and I paid for those.
Ow. Back here.
Alright. Press any button. Let's continue our adventure from the last time. The Adventure of the Unbreakable Speckled Man. Investigation, Part 2. So the last time, how we ended, our friend died, and we're trying to figure out why. And of course, we are suspected to be the murderers of another case again. And we met Herlock Sholmes. And then after that, we then gone through a little bit of investigation. And in the first investigation, we found that the next door person was indeed a female for some reason. So we're trying to figure out why she was there. And how she got on there too. Because we found out that she is a famous ballerina.
Alright.
Mm-hmm. That's like a quick, in-depth summary, and obviously there's a lot of details missing, but whatever. Also, Susato. Here we go again. I wish we hadn't been thrown out like that. Like you thrown me multiple times? I wish we'd managed to find some clue as to what that speckled band might be. I didn't manage to investigate at all. And I imagine that we won't be able to for a while longer. We'll never get past that soul sailor guarding the door. He's clearly glaring at us, as if to say, don't even think about it. Oh, wait a minute. What is it? Well, what happened to the great detective friend? Where did he go? Oh, yes. He completely disappeared. When did he do that? He slipped away as quietly as the wind, but not even before ensuring these were securely back on my wrists. Well, can't really do much here. So we gotta go back to the thingy of the cabin. It looks like they're still investigating in here. Yes. On that subject, I wonder if Inspector Hosanaka is unscathed. What do you mean, unscathed? Surely you haven't forgotten, have you, Naruto-san? Don't you remember that he said that allowing you out of this cabin to investigate? He was going to talk to the captain about it, and said he'd lay his life on the line for you. Oh, yeah. But I'm sure he was exaggerating. Let's see what he has to say for himself. Might have some new information for us. You never know. You! Where did you go? Oh, sorry, I just went to the next door cabin. Why? Who gave you permission for this? Well, Seaman Hosonaga did. That new Japanese, was it? Later, I will roll him into a ball and throw him in the cold room. Whew, he's gone back to guarding the door. Yo, Max with the Prime 5-month sub. What's up, man? How was your Kingdom Hearts 3 critical run, dude? I didn't catch it because I was literally like so tired. I fell asleep and took a nap for a while.
When is Max gonna play Metroid Dread, or has he already?
Until he gets his copy, which is it's coming from the UK.
Oh.
So it's not until like probably at the end of next week till 2 weeks from now. Not nearly as bad as I expected. So far, at the least. Jeez. At least, it sounds like you're not gonna have too much of a hard time. Also, the 20th, so that's like in 2 weeks from now. But that's like expected date. I think like my experiences with like overseas shipping usually comes in earlier than expected for me. I don't know why, but every time I order overseas, and then just like not just the one time I ordered from the UK from Amazon, but I've ordered like multiple times from like other places on eBay and stuff like that, and they ship it to me and they come in like a week or week and a half, like early, and a few days early to a week earlier than expected. So maybe it'll come soon, Max. If there's no tracking, then you don't know where it is. I'm pretty sure there's no tracking for you because, yeah. Maybe you'll get it by end of next week, actually. I hope you do. Because then you can finally play it. Oh yeah, are you looking forward to playing Dread? Because Carl already beat the boss, and he's been doing his second playthrough.
Yep. And let me just tell you, Max, if you do you like hard games? Because if so, you're gonna like
I mean,
this.
he's doing a critical run in Kingdom Hearts 3, Carl. That probably says that he's doing a hard game.
Hard games on motorcycles.
Hard games on motorcycles. You check media share. I posted something. Oh.
Actually, Max, if you take a look at the game spoilers section in my public Discord, I actually did slightly rant against the final boss. It doesn't go into spoilers though, so don't worry. I just said F this final boss.
Is that an authentic first generation Charizard card, Mick? It looks like it. It's not the absolute beginning one, but it's definitely looks like in the first edition one. It's copyright 1995. I don't see any other one. This looks like the first edition one. Doesn't look fake as well to me, based on the picture. I'm all about hard games, says Max.
Oh, I'm glad.
Max should do, like, when he gets to Metroid Dread, he should do a regular playthrough of it, and then Max should do either the hardest difficulty or like hardest difficulty with the least amount of items possible, kind of thing. It's like a small run. That will give him a challenge. I hope Inspector Hosonaga doesn't find himself in too much trouble on our account. Also, Mick, that is like a good card. Wow. Bit jealous that you have a Charizard card at least. But I'm not a person to spend a lot of money on a card. I would rather spend a lot of money on a game specifically. He's really gone out of his way to help us, hasn't he? When we get back to Japan, we'll have to take him for a steak at Le Carnival. That could be a very long time from around Naruto-san. I'm starting on the hardest difficulty. If I'm not crying, I ain't buying. Wow, Max. Max is going in all hard. It's like the game has to be hard. It's like the easiest game. Oh, that just reminds me. It's like Kirby's Yarn. You know, like Kirby's Yarn, Epic Yarn, Carl.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like that's considered one of the easiest games on the Nintendo has ever made. It's like that's so easy. Max is like, nah, man, I'm never gonna play it because it's too easy for me. I gotta go hard.
Well, here's the thing, though. Like, trying to keep all of your beads is pretty tough.
Nah, man, that's too easy for Max. He can do it with his eyes closed.
Uh-huh.
It's not mine, though. It's your fiance. Oh, okay. Well, your fiance has a really good card. Too easy for me, Carl, says Max.
Alright.
Actually, Max,
wow.
What is the easiest game you've played so far? Like, what was the game that when you played it for the first time, it was like super easy? So it's clear that these letters were written in ink that was somehow spilt on the floor, and they spell the Russian word for wardrobe. Doesn't seem to be unambiguous pointer into you, Naruto-san, as you were sleeping in there. But to be truly unambiguous, it should have spelt out my name, don't you think? Well, either way, the fun fact remains. It's hard to imagine that Kazuma-sama would have written his last words, a word, in Russian. Which begs the question of who did write it. Gotta check everywhere. These are the rules of passage for travel aboard of SS Buria. IDK. Honestly, I don't know for sure. Well, How about this, Max? You played a lot of games over the time and even now. I mean, those are games that you've already said that disappointed you after you played it, but what was a game that you were very hyped for, but first impressions felt short? Doesn't necessarily mean that the game was bad at the end, or like it was either like you overall liked it but just didn't like the beginning part, or it was super slow or something like that. Like, what was your first impressions of it? Like, what game gave you that you were hyped for but were immediately disappointed by your first impressions of the game? That's a very specific question. I am almost at the end of the Ace Attorney.
Oh.
You mean the trilogy, right, Mick? The end of the Ace Attorney trilogy? Passengers must not keep weapons or other dangerous objects in their cabin. Pets are also strictly forbidden. So by bringing her pet on board, Miss Pavlova has broken the rules.
Ah!
Carl's dying. She called it her friend, didn't she?
Oh my god.
Yes, although we don't know what form this friend takes yet. I'm almost certain that whatever it is, it's inside the traveling case in our cabin. A friend. There's more to this than it seems, I think.
Ah, I died. Okay.
Good job, Carl.
The underwater section sucks.
Scarlet Nexus. Really? Was Scarlet Nexus that bad at the beginning? And for me, it was Jump Force. Jump Force, I can immediately see. I don't know much of Scarlet Nexus, but I really don't know much of Scarlet Nexus, actually, outside of like the trailers I see. I was actually genuinely confused in a lot of cases, so I don't know about Scarlet Nexus at all. But Jump Force, I can immediately say, hey, Carl, would you like to play Jump Force with me? Carl? Oh, Carl's deafened. Dang it. I was going to get his reaction. Play Jump Force with me. God, that game is so stiff. The start was really slow in terms of fleshing out the combat. Oh, I played some games that like are so slow that I really just don't want to get through it. That's why it's like, I wish there was a way to speed up the tutorial instead of just playing and making a whole section explaining everything in such a slow manner. It just ruins the flow of a game. It really does. Tutorials can be fun, but on rare occasions, and you have to make them short so that a replay of it can actually be fun. That's why sometimes, like, I wish games give more options of like skip the tutorial, skip the tutorial. I still say Jump Force because it's an anime game, though. Yeah, it's like Jump Force is like, ever since I saw the graphics, it was already akin to me that I did not fully like it. I like the J-Stars battle, the one on the PS3, the J-Star Victory or something like that. That one looks so much better graphics wise, and the intro looked so much better. Heck, the combat, I felt like, I think in that one was, and the presentation was a lot better in that one because they were not static. They literally had their own intros, they had their own movesets and everything. It's Jump Force. Like, the intro and interactions are so much better, in my opinion, in that one. The game is solid, but it really starts out slow. Hey, that sounds like Kingdom Hearts 2, Max. How the game just starts out super, super slow. All the books provided for passengers occupying this cabin neatly arranged on the shelf. They were all over the place when we first looked around, if you remember. Oh yes, and you tidied them up, didn't you? You have to look after the ship's property. Unruly behavior in cabins leads to damage. But it really wasn't me who knocked them over. Well, anyway, I feel much better now that they're neatly lined up. I can't relax when things are untidy. So Kazuma spends his final moments writing in his diary. 1:23 a.m. I can hear a faint whistling sound. 1:35 a.m. What looks like to be some sort of speckled band is dangling from the ventilator grill. I looked at his writing on the page. It's almost as impossible to believe that he's gone. Kazuma left us a valuable clue in his words. I'm sure of it. We should solve the mystery now, Herlock-san. We will. Well, found him. Plus, they have more anime characters, and their ultimate was good too. Shh. Kingdom Hearts story is good overall. Kingdom Hearts 2 story is super slow. Well, super slow at the beginning. I mean, I like Kingdom Hearts, but then once you get to what was it? Once you get to 2, it starts getting convoluted. Because then after 2, it just adds so much more story that it really is just bloated, and 3 had to clean up a lot of the mess. I like Kingdom Hearts franchise overall, but man, Kingdom Hearts 2 is like, there's some things about Kingdom Hearts like overall just I don't like. You're back. Inspector, what happened to you? Your face is... Please, don't worry about it. They're just scratches. Made by a bear, maybe?
This is a flesh wound.
This is a flesh wound. Kingdom Hearts 2 is my fave, and no, it's God tier. Shh. Kingdom Hearts 2's beginning is pretty slow, though. Then again, I should probably play Kingdom Hearts 2 at some point, because I did play Kingdom Hearts 1, and Kingdom Hearts 2 would be interesting, but I mean, Kingdom Hearts 2 I would probably still say is better than Kingdom Hearts 1, but yeah, it's a really slow intro. When I told the captain that I've given you permission to investigate, he told me he'd pummel me with his fist and toss me overboard. What? But the pummeling was over in a flash, and he must have decided against throwing me overboard. So it was nothing really. Looks like he wasn't joking when he said he'd lay his life on the line if he had to. Well, thanks for your efforts. We know a little about the neighboring cabin. Yes, so I understand. Oh? I bumped into a man claiming to be a great detective a little while ago. I think his name was something like Herlock Sholmes. I don't think he's German, though. Oh, that explains it. Have we compare notes then? We tell you what we found out. Yes, let's do it. Cabin next door. Lies. It's not slow. It is slow. Well, I'm already doing a snake voice mix, so we're gonna do this. Darkness. Darkness. What? Nikolina Pavlova. She's in the next cabin next door? Oh, do you know who she is? Please, it's self-respecting ballet fan. What self-respecting ballet fan wouldn't know of that graceful angel? Oops, I think I upset him there. Oh, that tells us the neighboring cabin is unrelated to the case at least. Oh, how? Because angels don't go around committing crimes, do they? Oops, now I've definitely upset him. Inspector, has your investigation in here proved fruitful? If I'm honest, there's very little more I can do. Our duty is to make sure the scene isn't disturbed, ready to hand over to the Hong Kong police. So I'm just keeping watch here, trying not to take my eyes off the job. Oh, I see. Take a shot every time Ansem says darkness. People will die from that. Ah, there is one thing. I do have a piece of new information for you. No? What? Yes, do tell us, Perspective, please. Yawning. What is this new information you have, Inspector? It's this. The Buria's medical officer just finished the examination of the body and managed to obtain the report. Oh, Kazuma's post-mortem report. Kazuma-sama. So, what was the cause of death? Oh, hey, CJ. What's up? How you doing, CJ? Hope you're doing well. Head pats. Damage to the cervical vertebrae is what's written in the report. His neck was broken? Yes, it would seem so. There were no obvious wounds or other signs of injury. So at first, I think they were considering poison.
Gosh.
But it turns out they found no trace of poison in the system at all. Well, what weapon was used then? Nothing has been found yet. In fact, there is no signs of a wound. Just think it may have been a blunt object, something that wouldn't leave a mark. Oh, I see. All body nerves run through the spine to the brain. Strong impact to the neck could induce death. It is a possibility, and no obvious wound would be left. For Kazuma. I have a second copy of the report. If it might be useful, you're welcome to have it. Really? Are you sure? Yes, it's fine. I trust you. After all, if I didn't trust you, I'd never have agreed to you leaving this cabin in the first place, would I? Hoi! Gotta pack when I wake up. I'm finally moving out Monday. Ooh, nice, CJ. You get your own place, right? Congrats, CJ. I'm glad everything worked out in the end. Hope everything works out and everything, but yeah, packing up everything. Ugh, that's a lot of work, no matter what. I don't look forward to packing up all my games and stuff like that, but that's gotta be a thing where I gotta pack up everything. The post-mortem report has been entered to the court record. Gotta trust people, Susato. Oh, Mr. Sholmes was there, was he? Yes, he seemed to be enjoying himself a little too much as he crept out on the floor investigating. Technically, yes, it's on my own place because my mom is almost never home. Lol. I mean, at least it's something at least, CJ. It's something at least. Did he say anything at all? Actually, now you mention it, yes. Just one thing, but he practically shouted it. It's shoe polish. It was all he said. Shoe polish? Wonder what he meant. It was when he was over there by the piece of broken glass, do you see? Perhaps he's talking about the brick-colored mark? Do you think? Ah, yes. Ah, yes. That must be it. But how could Mr. Sholmes know it was shoe polish? That leaves me cold. I'm afraid I have no idea. What is it, Susato-san? Well, Kazuma-sama was wearing leather shoes with a very dark tan hue. Dark tan? A sort of dark brownish red then. Yes, a little like the color of red wine, but darker. I often repair them for him. Oh, does this mean that this mark was made by polish on Kazuma's shoes as they scuffed on the floor? The mark on the floor has been entered court record. Mick being adorable, lol. And eating a lot of chocolate cause it's time. It's the time of month. Now Mick, everyone's beautiful. That's really all I can tell you at this stage. I should return to my post. My fellow crewman's eyes are boring into the back of my head. Yes, that might be for the best. Thank you. Poor Inspector. You look exhausted. Oh, no. Well, I feel terrible that I failed to protect Asoji-san. He was my responsibility. Of course, my pain is nothing compared to yours. You were his friends. Well, I was more of a friend than Susato. Screw Susato. The truth is, I seem to have had a heavy head ever since I woke up this morning. Heavy head? That's interesting. It's still throbbing too. I can move out, right? I think about that. Your personality is amazing from what I've seen. Yep, personality is great. Everyone's personality can work as well. Look, Naruto-san. Seaman Straganov, it has gone. Strong enough? A burly Russian sailor who is always crossing his arms and glaring at us. Of all these Russian names are impossible to remember. To be honest, any foreign names to you are kind of hard to remember. Like Japanese to American people, Asian names to American people, European names to other, like, Asian people or something like that kind of thing. It's true. Tra-la-la. Captain Underpants? Did you hear that? Sounded like someone singing. Tra-la-la-la-la-la-lay. I did it the great detective way. I mean, you can DM me a Discord, lol, you know. If you wish me to, I will. Ooh, they are gonna be DMing. And that's fine. This caroling. I know that lark-like voice. Well, never mind now. Never mind that now. This is a golden opportunity for us. Yes, you're right. We must seize it. Must seize the day. Let's get to Lava's cabin. We can and investigate. Definitely. Before that stringy knot crewman comes back. JK. I mean, it's in chat. I'll read it anyway. It's Straganov, not Stringy Knot. Somebody can't. Oh, it's Sholmes, look. Well, you never know where he's going to turn up next, do you? It seems to be stealing a look at something as he sings to himself. Tra-la-la, lira-lira-lay, I did it the great detective way. He's still singing. Do you think he hasn't noticed us? Or he's simply extremely high spirits? A splinter says what? A sphinter says what? Oh, he's simply in high spirits. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when the yard bit off more than it could chew. And through it all, when there was doubt, he's lucky Herlock was about. It's lucky Herlock was about. Excuse me? I solved it all and stood tall. I did it with the great detective. Hey, that didn't rhyme. Mr. Sholmes. Yarg! What's it? What is it? You want to fight him? Honestly, interrupting a fellow when he's singing, and I was just about to reach the climactic finish. Sorry, I thought you were never going to stop, so I figured now is a good time as any. Yeah, I've very nearly dropped to the floor and with one of my famous right hooks. Alright, I get the picture. Now could you put the fists away? I don't know what you... I don't know, hold on. that thing is, CJ. I really don't. The problem is that with those jokes is that I don't understand what those jokes really are about, honestly. I just say them because, like, whatever. I knew it was a joke from the beginning. I just did not understand what that whole meaning was with the sphincter. What the heck is a sphincter anyway? Those jokes that when people say what is like literally like so old that I really don't care about it. People can just joke about it and whatever, but nah. Mr. Sholmes, you seem to be examining something before we interrupted you. Ah, yes, that. I was immersed to studying a ship's log as penned by the stockily built crewman who's usually on guard here. Oh yes, the ship's log. And did you find anything useful from it? Well, after 2 a.m. this morning, the majority of entries are blank. I never heard of that way, honestly, CJ. Yeah, whatever. That's literally a new word to me, so I really don't know. I thought you made that up, honestly. I thought that said splinter. Instead of, like, whatever that word is. That's why I said splinter, and then when I double checked on that, that says, oh, okay. That's what it was, that word. Yeah, I never watched Wayne's World.
Excellent.
I only know about Wayne's World, and I know that its game is kind of rare.
Oh god, game. What do you think of the NES game?
Yeah, the NES game is actually kind of rare.
Wayne's. Oh, it's so bizarre.
I don't know anything about Wayne's World, honestly. It's like one of those like weird movies that I've never watched ever. It's like I don't know, it's like we're not worthy, and it's just one of those like cult classic movies, honestly. Which means that there was nothing to report, nothing of note happened, so you truly are a student from the land of the rising sun. You've been utterly blinded by it. Sorry? Your logic, my boy, is inverted. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Sholmes? Observe the other pages, and all shall become clear. It would seem that the same crewman of aft stands sentry in this first-class passageway. And he has the most religious practice of recording nothing to report every half hour. Oh, he writes that in every 30 minutes? Nothing to report. Precisely. Simply put, the seaman writes nothing to report when there is just that. And yet, the ship's logs from last night is largely blank. He didn't even write nothing to report. Do you mean? Yes, there were circumstances afoot last night, which led to the seaman being absent from his post. What kind of circumstance? What happened? That remains a mystery for now, but we can be sure significant took place. So significant that it caused the seaman to forget his regular habit of scribing nothing to report in the log. These are important details that I would stake my life on it. You must log the ship's log in your mental file. Man, I suck at the British accent right now. I think it's like slightly off today.
British accent.
Ah. Hey, Mike.
Indubitably. How about indubitably?
Indubitably that...
No, I dare say, old chap.
There you go.
I dare say, old chap, you got...
Now that deduction as great as pie. Huh?
Yes.
That's part of tea.
Tea and crumpets.
Tea and crumpets, young man.
Um,
Can't wait to actually have the functional internet. Jeez, that would... Having functional internet is almost a need in our society.
Yes.
You're starting to understand that my way is... I see. That would make Shomes, the brilliance. Brilliance! Oh, ouch.
he laughed so hard he hurt himself.
What is it? Are you hurt? Oh, don't worry about yourself. I seem to be afflicted with throbbing head this morning. For some reason, nothing more. Well, my friends, until our next encounter... I've bought an Elgato today at least. Oh, which Elgato? Did you bought the 60 Plus, I'm assuming? Or 60S? Those are some good capture cards.
Yep.
I have one as a backup. Yeah, 68. 60S is always good. I have one as a backup just in case my current one, which goes into my computer, ever breaks on me for any reason. He's still singing to himself. I can hear his word. He wanders off down the passageway.
Oh my.
Is something wrong, Susato-san? You seem lost in thought. It's just... Well, I feel the same. Sorry? Ever since I woke this morning, I've had something of a headache. Of a sort of continuous throbbing. Oh, you too? I got it just for Smash for the most part, so I can actually stream it outside of tournaments, which is probably a good thing. Like, you can actually have something good to try. Miss Pavlova isn't back yet. Susato-san. Oh, where's she gone? Where's she gone? Hey, what are you doing? Those are her private things. There's not a moment to waste, Naruto-san. We must investigate as quickly as we can. Suppose you're right. For Kazuma's sake.
Oops.
Not just for Kazuma-sama. What do you mean? It can't be long now until we arrive at port in Hong Kong. I don't want you to be in those handcuffs when we get there. Really? We must solve this case, Naruto-san. By ourselves if we have to. Yes, we will. All the books are toppled over together. Look, every single one. Do you think that's a good God of the Sea, perhaps? Oh yeah, this one's like examination. These are just like probably just like simple talks I'm gonna go through to like get to the actual stuff. Perhaps Miss Pavlova is practicing difficult ballet again. You lost your tempo and knocked everything over. See, it's like, if knocked everything over, that would just be weird. Why does she have to leave a gap in between? It bothers me. Oh my. Miss Pavlova's case is open. It's completely empty inside, but according to the great detective's great deduction, she was hiding a special friend in there. Yes, a friend that she had to keep secret. Yeah. Roll your R's, I see. Because you're not allowed to bring animals aboard the SS Beria. Wonder what kind of animal she had in there. And the more to the point, where is it now?
In the vents.
In the vents? I don't know.
I have no idea. I mean,
There are a few books on the desk, nothing else by the looks of it. Well, Miss Pavlova only ran from ballet last night. She hardly occupied this cabin any at all. That's true. I wonder what kind of books she likes to read. Let me see. Yes, I see. It would seem Miss Pavlova enjoys reading. Books written in Russian. Thanks. I think I probably already knew that. It's rude to ask too much of people, Naruto-san. Kindly remember that. I wonder what is this little saucer doing on the floor? Yes, it doesn't look like it's been dropped. More like it's been put there deliberately. Do you think there could be a leak on the roof just above here? What? A leak? Is this ship quite safe? I'm sure that even if there's a little leak on the roof, it doesn't mean that the whole ship is going to sink. No, you're right. Of course you're right. She's really trying to persuade herself, isn't she? She's a gullible person. Naruto-san, are you there? Sorry, I'm right here. Yes. Why? Oh, good. I thought you might climb into the wardrobe when I wasn't looking. There's no place like home. Believe me, I don't have extreme compulsion to jump inside every wardrobe I see, you know. Well, anyway, I'm not sure any could fit inside this one. It's full of beautiful outfits. I suppose they're all stage costumes. I was rather hoping we might find Mrs. Pavlova's friends hiding there, but no such luck. Why can't I examine this bag? It's weird that you can't examine that bag. This is the ventilator that connects to Kazuma's cabin next door. Yes, although what a fool a shipbuilder must be to open a ventilator and into another room. Ah, maybe. It's so that if there's gas leaks next door, the occupant of this cabin would notice and raise their alarm. Or the occupants of both cabins would die of gas poisoning. That is a possibility. Anyway, last night, Kazuma wrote that he saw a speckled band coming through this ventilator. Look, what's that? Shut down engines immediately. Vessel sighted a quarter-mile forward. Full stops, hard starboard. All hands brace for impact. What the? I think we're about to crash into another ship. What? Uh-oh. I can't stand. Susato, hold on to me. Ah! And then everyone dies. Carl, everyone dies, right?
The end.
Alright, cool. Good game, guys. 10 out of 10, Carl, would you say?
20 out of 10.
Oh, 20 out of 10.
You're
Oh.
really anticlimactic.
Anticlimactic. Susato-san, are you alright? Are you injured at all? I think I'm fine, thank you, Naruto-san. Looks like we avoided a collision. I think. Yes, the ship has come to a stop. Oh my goodness, what about you, Naruto? Are you hurt? No, I'm fine. Hello? Is anybody out in there? Shout if you need assistance. Oh, that sounds like Inspector Osanaga. Is that you in there? Naruto-san, unbolt the door, quickly. What? The bolt? Look at that. The door is bolted. Did you do that, Susato-san? No, I didn't touch it. Oh, that's strange. How did... And look at that, the books. They're just like they were before again. Naruto-san, aren't you going to open the door and let Inspector in? Sorry, I'm not talking, just messaging someone, I wonder who. Nah, no worries, Mick. It's fine. I'm just reading off the story and finishing this up. Better tidy this place up first. Our violent emergency stop had solved one mystery at least in a very vivid way. But I knew that what awaited us on the other side of the cabin door would not be pleasant. I hurried around, tidying up the cabin with a new sense of foreboding in my heart. And that's another to be continued. See, this is one thing about the to be continued. It's so sporadic when it goes through it. This to be continued only took an hour.
Yeah.
And I still got time to finish up the second part of the course.
Where's the dessert?
Huh?
Where's the dessert?
Carl, would you like a giant ice cream cake? All to yourself?
Well, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, cool. Cool. It's gonna be a 6-pound cake.
Okay, start again.
Oh, Carl, you died. I saw that.
There's a bit of audio delay, and it's all about audio cues, about timing.
Yeah, if you're listening to it based off not the actual TV, but the capture software, it's a couple frames of delay at least. So if you're listening to that, then yeah, have good luck having the timing of it, Carl. Yeah, I wonder who, says CJ. Somehow the door into the cabin we were in ended up bolted after we made an emergency stop. Susato-san took a deep breath and then gently slid back the bolt. You, what are you doing in Miss Pavlova's quarters? Ah, I see. You're both unhurt. Good. Yes, we're fine. Thank you. What on earth happened? We heard something about how we were going to collide with another ship. Yes, it appears to have been a false report, though. Oh? How did that happen? There's a dense fog outside, so it's extremely difficult to see. Someone must have thought she saw a ship ahead. This person obviously triggered the alarm, and that's why we made an emergency stop. Everything is in chaos. Passengers are screaming. Crew are running everywhere. This is the first class area. It's the quiet part of the ship at the moment. I mean, there's only very few people here. Oh, I see. Someone triggered the alarm? Does that mean that someone pressed that button outside? Ah! You wicked intruder, dressed in all in black. You are a devil. Sorry, me. Sorry, me. I've been called a lot of things before, but devil is the first. You opened my driving case. How could you? What? No, we didn't touch it. That's right, Miss Pavlova. It was already open when we came into your cabin. Spectre. Yes? Arrest this man. I know he did it. He is a criminal. Is it not enough that he has killed a man? Ah, he is a stowaway as well. If Vixen promises not to steal chicken, do you believe? Take him away. He is a trespasser as well as everything else. Stowing away, trespassing, killing. Is it? She is right. You are devil. Does not look good, does it? There's a cell below deck. Throw him in. Tomorrow we talk in Hong Kong. When we give you and then give you straight to police. Wait, a cell? Please, Inspector Hosonaga. Is there nothing you can do? This is a Russian vessel. I really don't have no jurisdiction here. After my last effort to appeal the captain's good nature, I think I'm out of options. This is terrible. This is a real crisis. Got to find a solution. Immediately. Dun, 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 dun. Huh. Huh, I wonder where I should go. What the? What are you doing up there? Mr. Holmes? Is Mr. Sholmes? Naturally, I was analyzing what a weight of a 20,000 rubles feels like on one's head. Have I not told you that I was a detective? It is my business to know what people do or not. Do not. This isn't mere tomfoolery, my boy. Oh, no. Well, why are you hanging from the hook before then? Isn't it obvious? To properly assess the weight of the 20,000 rubles, naturally. I wish to determine if it was bent to conceited, hook on the wall, looking hook on the wall, so full of brag and bounce. I can never know whether to take this man seriously or not. You again, the great detective. Inspector, I confess I've been looking for you.
Oh, come.
I have something to report to you and to do most urgently. Well, you might try looking for me somewhere other than a hook on the wall next time. What is to report? Speak. Urgent report from the great detective can mean but one thing. Yes. The case of a curious murder that took place last night here on the vessel, the steam Berea, has been solved. By me, naturally. What? Really? Yes, I have eliminated all possibilities. No other explanations exist. So, allow me to illuminate all your minds. For I'm about to reveal my great detective's greatly admired great deduction to the case. Ha! You have solved it? Even the Hedgehog understands this case. We all knew who was responsible for killing school student boy this morning when we found criminal in wardrobe. It is this doorway and he is handcuffs to prove it. He didn't do it. The trouble is, there doesn't appear to be anyone else who could have killed the victim. Because as everyone knows, the cabin door was bolted shut from the inside. That means the culprit must be someone who was inside the cabin. Yes, it's what's called a locked room mystery in the detective story. Lock the room. What? That is point. Oh, what's the locked? Well, I can't deny that. There's no way a bolt could have been drawn across from outside the cabin. You are all quite mistaken. The cabin next door is not a so-called locked room at all. What? Oh yes, there is another entrance. An entrance used last night by the culprit in order to gain access to the cabin despite the bolted door. What other entrance? We never discovered one. Why, it gapes open mouth at you even as we speak. The ventilator, man. The ventilator? You think this is funny? I can't even put my arm through that hole. That's because your arms are as thick as tree trunks. They are pretty thick. You're suggesting that the culprit entered and left the victim's cabin through that tiny opening? It's impossible. But it is. And last night, the victim even witnessed the intruder in the act of passing through the ventilator. Mr. Sholmes, do you mean... Are you referring to the words Kazuma-sama wrote in his diary? 1:23 a.m. I can hear a faint whistling sound. 1:35 a.m. What looks like some sort of speckled band is dangling from the ventilator grill. Precisely, my dear madame. But what does it mean? What is the speckled band? The answer to that particular conundrum is in this very cabin. Mr. Sholmes, what are you doing? There is distinct element of danger. But fear not. I am ready. What I'm about to expose you to all to see will shock you to your cores. Behold. What the? Allow me to introduce you all to the band. The speckled band. A snake? Indubitably. I like how Stragonov is still standing there with a snake wrapped around his head. Mr. Sholmes, just one thing. Pray, troubles you? Well, that snake isn't really speckled, is it? It looks more stripy than, wouldn't you say? Yes, you're right. I think in this case, you'd have to call it the striped band, wouldn't you? You both see and observe with distinction. However, do you not think that that is precisely the trap into which the culprit wishes you to fall? Oh my goodness, really? It's a trap? How exactly? I think perhaps it is time I explain the intricacies of my train of thought. Are you ready, Miss Pavlova? I am sorry for the young man who died, but that is all. His death is nothing to do with me. The whole thing is nothing to do with me. There are two conclusions I have drawn from the facts. Number one, last night your friend infiltrated the victim's cabin. And number two, the same friend is responsible for the victim's losing his life. No. She's turned as white as a bowl of rice again. Sholmes must be right. He's hit the nail on the head. This younger woman's friend killed Mr. Osagi. Looks like he can't speak with that snake coiled around his head. I would advise as little movement as possible, Seaman. You wouldn't want the fangs of that long friend in your neck. So everyone, let us begin. Herlock Sholmes is about to present his logic and reasoning spectacular. Here we go again. Miss Pavlova, moments ago you claimed the following. His death is nothing to do with me. This whole thing is nothing to do with me. And yet you cannot deceive yourself. Yes, when you recall those horror events, your aching heart smarts with pain. And it is that very pain that evidences your inextricable link to the victim's death. So we ask, what is the nature of this intruder that stole into the victim's cabin on the portentous night? Man, big words. Why, naturally, it was the friend with which you boarded this vessel, was it not? As I suspected, another telltale glance. Without a doubt, your friend is the wreathing serpent we see before us. And yet, the fact leaves us in a quandary. God dang it, big word.
Quandary.
quandary. You figured it out, James?
What?
You figured out what this case is gonna lead to in the end?
No, I was just staring at the fact that that sailor is really calm,
Yeah.
despite that there's a snake living on his head.
I mean, considering the fact he's a sailor and anything. The victim's written observations on the night in question tell of a speckled band, whereas regrettably, this specimen's markings do not fit the description in any way. What explanation can we give, pray? What is this sight that fell upon the victim's eyes last night? Oh, no, don't look at me. This has nothing to do with any of this. Oh, but it does. You have the answer into this quandary, even now, hidden behind your back. Yes, that which you're trying to, but failing to conceal, can only be in the snake's slowed skin. Evidently, after the subtle and horrible crime, this most deadly friend of yours shed its original skin, no? I don't know what you're talking about. Last night, through the ventilator visible in this cabin, your then speckled friend slithered next door. Using the belt cord.
Was it actually in the vents?
It is true. So the actual thing that we've concluded that's true is that the true intruder that killed Kazuma went through the vents.
Oh, I was just throwing spitballing ideas out there.
Yeah, so what you said was like the ventilator was actually true, James. Yeah, but there's more to this puzzle that meets the eye because we're almost there. Just that we need to fix up Sholmes' case by case. Using the bell cord on the other side as a bridge, the serpent silently descended into the victim's quarters. In the dim light, it appeared to the young gentleman who was about to lose his life as a speckled band. In summary, the nature of this friend of yours which last night infiltrated the scene of the crime is a rare breed of snake whose markings change each time it lost its skin. A snake so dreadful we can only imagine it be found in the deepest depths of India. Huh. Moving on, we can come to connect the matter, the grim demise of the victim. How this young man lose his life? Why? According to the data of which I have appraised, it would appear that there's no visible signs of injury. In fact, the circumstances of the victim's death can only be explained by a terrible venom. Now, if we take that as a fact, we can reasonably imagine that there remains evidence to affirm it at the scene of the crime. No, could there be? Yes, on the examination of the disease plan, we'll prove the cause of death conclusively. Conclusively. Yes. The almost, but not quite imperceptible puncture wounds left by the venomous fangs will seal the truth. Yes, the vestiges of the snake bite delivered by your terrifying friend. This makes no sense. There's no point feigning ignorance, Miss Pavlova. After the incident, endeavored to hide everything, didn't you? But now your involuntary glances betrays the hiding place you chose. That's right. You hid the evidence that links to the victim's death in the traveling case. When we first met in this cabin, it came to my attention that your case moved periodically. Your serpent assassin was restless inside, no doubt. You don't It is the telling that the victim made a note of how a low whistling sound that he heard minutes before his end. That was your signal, was it not? The sound that you had used to train your serpent friend. To train? Indeed, you put the serpent through his ventilator and wait. After a period, you summoned it back with a whistle. You couldn't know if the animal had done its duty, so you would whistle for signs of life next door. If the victim appeared not to have been dispatched, you'd release the snake once more. Do you deny the snake has undergone such training? It is not true. Having slithered through the ventilator and down the bell cord, the creature needed only to sink its veins in once. And its venom would course through the victim's veins, ending his existence forever. That is the true nature of the speckled band that took place the poor young man's life. There can be no doubt. My logic is infallible. 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 Man, I can't speak today.
Is there even a bite mark on the body?
Well, that's the problem with this great deduction. There are errors in this case because if we remember in our court record, we just got recently that the post-mortem report said that there were no external traces, injuries, or poisons. So there is something else to this matter that he did not say and that we have to fix.
No external injuries.
Mm-hmm. But it was a blunt trauma to the neck. Miss Pavlova has trained her pet snake as a killing machine. There on the floor, we will reserve the saucer of milk. The promised food is the key training any creature. Incredible. You solved the mystery. Amazing. Your great deduction really lives up to its name. I see.
Punched in the face?
Yeah, he got punched in the face because the captain hated his guts. And hated that he gave the permission for Ryunosuke, who I am, permission to leave the cabin as even though I'm a suspect. I see now why Herlock Sholmes has become such a household name. My dear man, it was nothing remarkable, as the Russians say. I could have not done it with one left hand. Could I venture an opinion, Mr. Sholmes? But of course, what's on your mind? It's just about your deductions before. Some things don't quite make sense to me. I welcome questions as to my methods, and will answer both loud and proudly. Oh, well, good. First of all, snakes are egg-laying creatures, part of the reptile family. You are well informed, madame. And reptiles, don't drink milk. Ah. It's really only mammals that like to drink milk, you see. So, I'm not sure it would be possible to train a snake using milk as a reward. No matter. No doubt Miss Pavlova used some other treat to encourage her pet to do her bidding. Milk was merely an example. The logic holds. Well, there is something else. Snakes have no ears. Ah. Yes, so I'm not sure it would really be possible to signal the snake by whistling. But madame, what of the tales of Arabia? Have you not heard of the snake that dances to the sounds of a flute? I think perhaps the performer plays their music in time with the snake's natural movements. Oh, I see. No hands, no feet, no ears. These creatures are so inept as to be practically useless.
Snakes can still hear, though. They just don't have, like, the same structure as
human. Yeah, they can technically still hear. Don't take it out on the snakes, Mr. Sholmes. There is one other thing. You have one more? snakes use the scales on the bellies to propel themselves. So, I'm not really sure a snake could manage to climb a flat bell cord like the ones in these cabins. Then he would... Should try harder. Please, don't be angry with me, Mr. Sholmes. The point is, even if the snakes had gone through the ventilator in the next door cabin, it couldn't have come back without help. What I'm trying to say is that there are a number of reasons why it's difficult to imagine the snake could have had a part in this. Great deduction destroyed, I think. We need to step in and help again, Naruhodo. Oh no, you don't mean... Yes, we need to modify Mr. Sholmes' latest deductions and turn them into great ones they ought to be. I had a feeling that was coming. Alright, let's give it a try. Just what I was waiting for, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, right. So, cast your eyes down to your wrists again. What? Oh, again, they're gone. You've done it again. Your handcuffs are gone. Where'd they go? Did they go? Fear not. I shall see they're restored after our work is done. I really wish you'd just leave them off. Now, everyone, let's begin. Herlock Sholmes is proud to present his logic and reasoning spectacular. Course correction. Hold it, Sholmes. Alright, let's go with this. What we got? Miss Pavlova, moments ago you claimed the following. The death is nothing to do with me. This whole thing is nothing to do with me. Yet you cannot deceive yourself. Yes, when you recall those horror events, your aching heart smarts with pain. She does have an expression on her face. Yes, that's true. She looks as though Kazuma's death is weighing heavily on her hand. But you're not sure Mr. Sholmes has read her quite correctly, is that it? Could there be another way to interpret her expressions then? Let's take a moment and really look very closely at Miss Pavlova. What? Oh, there it is. Oh, Naruhodo-san, look. That looks like a very painful wound. It looks like a scratch made by a small animal. And fairly recently, too. Whatever scratched her doesn't appear to be around here. Yes! Yes. Yes, when you recall those horrid events, that claw scratch smarts with pain. Indeed, the simple observation reveals that the wound is fresh. Miss Pavlova, did you, in fact, receive that scratch sometime last night? Huh? I think about that young man who died next door, I feel so sad. And when I am sad, the pain from this wound is worse.
You frick! You frick!
By the way, he's not talking about Pavlova, he's talking about Emmy. It is that very pain that evidences your inextricable link to the victim's death. So we ask, what was the nature of this intruder that stole the victim's cabin on that portentous night? Why, naturally, it was that friend which you boarded this vessel, was it not? Ah, as I expected, another telltale glance. Without a doubt, your friend is the writhing serpent we see behind us. It seems likely the scratch mark on the back of Mrs. Pavlova's hand was made by this friend of hers, doesn't it? Except, snakes don't have claws, do they? No, they don't. They don't even have hands or feet on which claws might grow. Well then, if that snake isn't her pet, what is? What's the true identity of this friend of hers? We should follow her gaze. Follow her gaze, Naruto-san. That's where we will find the answer. Oh, look at that photograph in this frame. This must be something Miss Pavlova brought with her when she ran away. She is exceptionally beautiful, isn't she? That is true, but personally, it's the little black creature she's holding caught my eye. Maybe we'd better take a closer look at this. Look at the little cat Miss Pavlova is cuddling here. Oh, what a cutie little kitten. It could vie with you, couldn't it, Naruto-san? For the blackest outfit. A black kitten. And from the look of this picture, at least, Miss Pavlova seems very attached to it.
Oh, you. Red.
Without a doubt, your friend is the little kitten we see before us. Yes, that scratch on the back of your hand makes it abundantly clear. Oh no. The whereabouts of this black kitten isn't clear, but what is clear is that you brought the animal with you when you ran away, didn't you? Darka is my best friend. I couldn't leave her behind. So Darka would appear to be a Russian blue. And yet, that fact really leaves us in a quandary. The victim's written observations on last night in question tell of a speckled band. Pavlova? That's a great dessert. Is Pavlova a dessert?
Pavlova.
Is it? Pavlova?
Part of it? I'm not quite sure.
I'm not sure. I don't know what that is, actually, on the dessert-wise. What is it, Matt? Also, how are you doing, Matt? I hope you're doing well. We're at the very tail end of this case, by the way, so we're finishing this up. Aussie dessert, actually. Let me look at this. Oh, it is? It is a dessert. Oh, here's a funny thing, Carl.
Yeah.
Pavlova is a marine-based dessert named after the Russian ballerina Anna Pavlova.
Oh wait, actually?
It is actually. Wow, that's a throwback. This is a huge reference. I didn't really realize that. I'm gonna pass out. I like how this plays, so I'm gonna refrain from watching it later. No worries, CJ. This is a great story. I highly recommend it. Yeah, this is case 2, so you're not gonna be missing. You got spoiled not too much, but yeah, totally play this when you can. Anyway, later, CJ. I'll catch you later. Have a good rest of your night. Also, yeah, this place of origin is made in Australia and New Zealand. Funny enough, it was named after a Russian ballerina. It's weird. Huh, I never knew that. Why that snake so angry? What did you do to it? Oh, we'll find out, Matt. We'll find out. We're getting to the tail end of this. Or it has regrettably. This specimen's markings do not fit the descriptions in any way.
Okay,
What?
I'm gonna die here.
What explanation can we give? We then give, pray. What was this sight that fell upon the victim's eyes last night? No, don't look at me. This has nothing to do with any of this. Evolving skies, right? Oh, but it does! We have an answer to the quandary even now hidden behind your back. Yes, that which you're trying to hide but failing to conceal can only be the snake's slow skin. You know me too well. I mean, that's the only one you pick, yeah. Did you see that? She took something out of her pocket and hid it behind her back. If she just left it in her pocket, no one would have ever known. Oh yes, employees like that are Mr. Holmes' specialty. He's ever so cleverly forced her to reveal something. I thought this deduction was his specialty. Or maybe making me believe that was a ploy, too. Anyway, that's fun. I find it hard to believe that's the skin of a snake. In which case, just what is Miss Pavlova hiding behind her back? Well, it's speckled and it's a band, but what is it? It seems too soft and fluffy. A long piece of cloth of some sort? And that looks like a handle at one end. Thinking maybe a cat's toy. This sort is common in the West, apparently. How is that a toy for cats? Cats like to be chased around and paw at it. Kittens, in particular, love that sort of play. You only need to wave it in front of them, and they pounce to catch it. It sounds positively adorable. Interesting.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, the thing you're trying to hide, but failing to conceal, is, a cat's toy. Precisely, the true nature of the now infamous speckled band. And that this toy was dangling through the ventilator. You waved it around, I presume. Naturally, the victim could not fail to notice it. But why? Why for what reason? My dear boy, there can only be one answer to that. After her feline friend disappeared through the ventilator into the neighboring cabin, Miss Pavlova attempted to use a speckled cat's toy to incite the creature to return. In summary, the nature of this friend of Miss Pavlova's, which was last night infiltrated the scene of the crime, is a blithesome Russian blue breed of cat by the name of Durka. A truly troublesome feline. Young Durka is proving to be she must be caged once found. You will forgive us for borrowing the photograph of your pet, Miss Pavlova. It was after I gave her food last night. That's when it happened. She scratched the back of my hand and then ran up the bell cord. Before I could do anything, she had disappeared through the ventilator. Tarka, she is so naughty. Well, we solved one conclusion. So, James, this is where you questioned about the venomous snake bite. Where we're gonna fix this.
So you said there was a like a bruise on the neck or something?
Yep, that's what the mortem said. Well, not the bruise. Like, basically, it was hit on the back of the neck, which didn't show any signs of, like, actual physical damage. It's just more of, like, it internally happened after a blunt force. Like, basically, you hit someone on the baseball bat on the forehead, and they just get a slight bruise. That's, like, basically kind of like that, by the sound of it.
So his neck was broken?
Yeah, basically. It broke his nervous system, which caused him to die. Moving on, we have the heart of the matter, the grim demise of the victim. How did this young man lose his life, and why? According to the data we have been appraised it would appear that the victim... there are no signs of injury. In fact, the circumstances of the victim's death can only be explained by a terrible venom. Mr. Shom said, what Mr. Sam says is true. There were no signs of wound anywhere on the Kazuma's body. That's right. But Mr. Shom seems to be unaware of one very important detail. Kazuma wasn't poisoned. Yes, it would seem so. Let's give him the information he's missing now. Yeah. In fact, the circumstances of the victim's death can only be explained by the post-mortem report. Ah, yes. I knew it was one or the other. Yeah, I think my throat is a little bit sore for some reason. I must have maybe caught something. Maybe I've caught your slight of it, what you got, Carl, or your family has gotten when I came to visit.
Worry.
Possibly. My throat definitely doesn't feel proper now. His neck was? Indeed, the breaking of the cervical vertebrae is fatal. Only that Goliath would be strong enough to survive that. Seaman Strakanov isn't some immortal freak, you know. The jury is out anyway, and we have a good authority that the victim's neck was broken. Now...
Oh, don't you know, lad?
Yeah, you know, lad. Laddie. Laddie. Now, if we can take that as a fact, we can reasonably imagine that there remains evidence to affirm it at the scene of the crime. Oh no, could there be? Yes. An examination of the deceased body would prove the cause of death conclusively. Kazuma died because his neck broke. In other words, he probably struck by something or someone. That's a distinct possibility. As of yet, no weapon has been found though. Presumably Darker didn't silently creep up behind Kazuma and deal him a fatal blow. Suppose it's possible that he had a fall and hit the ground awkwardly. It could have been a terrible act of misfortune that he broke his neck completely by accident. Oh yes, a bad fall could explain it. It's rather hard to believe Kazuma-sama though. He wasn't a clumsy man. Well, we need to fix this deduction somehow. Is there anything from the scene that could explain what happened? There is one thing we just learned.
Yes.
Yes, an examination of the mark on the floor will prove the cause of death conclusively. This particular mark is prominent visible next to the victim's body. It's a deposit of shoe polish. Shoe polish? Indeed, positively identified by a little analysis device I constructed, which I carry now of a matter of course. Beeswax, tallow, and dye were my results, the undeniable ingredients of shoe polish. And the color of the shoe polish is a perfect match. The color relates to Mr. Asaji's laced leather shoes. Looking at this mark, it's not hard to imagine what happened. For some reason, Mr. Asagi must have caught his foot at that point on the floor and tripped. Please, no. And by a dreadful turn of misfortune, caught his neck against something immovable object as he fell to the floor. Suffering a fatal blow to the spine, the victim's vertebrae shattered, and in an instant he lost his life. No! I don't know. I don't know anything about this. Is that really true, Miss Pavlova? What about the evidence left at the scene where Mr. Soji's lost his life? Yes. The facts are as clear as they
Did he
can
trip
be.
on the cat?
Huh?
Did he trip on the cat?
You did all that could to conceal the incriminating evidence. Hold on there. But now your involuntary glance betrays your hiding place you chose. That's right. You hid the evidence that links to your victim's death in the traveling case. I don't believe it. Kazuma-sama merely tripped over and now he's no more? It can't be true. I refuse to accept it. I know it's hard to believe, but the mark on the floor does seem to suggest that that's what happened. And if it's part of Mr. Shom's deduction is right, Miss Pavlova is trying to hide some evidence that would prove it. Here in this cabin, somewhere in the direction that she has just cast her eyes. wonder. Let's have a good look around. The answer must be here somewhere. This is a waste paper basket. Perhaps all the first-class cabins have it. But Miss Pavlova only started occupying this cabin late that night. Presumably there's not much rubbish in there yet. Oh? What's that? It's a broken piece of glass, isn't it? Yes, it is. And I feel like I've seen this somewhere before. If it looks familiar, perhaps it's more than your mind simply playing tricks on you. Yes! So when you said tripped on the cat, James, you're not too far off on the case. That's right, you hid evidence that links to you in the victim's death in that waste paper basket. Here, we have the fragment of some integrated glass object. It would seem that it would seem one that has a familiar air, in fact. Precisely. You found another piece of broken glass on the floor of in Mr. Osoji's cabin. And as you can see, the two pieces fit together perfectly. Oh no. So, Miss Pavlova, shall we consider what this tells us? Why, it would be that the part of the glass object which was evidently broken at the scene of the victim's death should be found in the waste paper basket in your cabin. Thank you. You're well acquainted with this glass bell, are you not? I don't know. It's the hushed Russian accent of yours won't save you this time, dear girl. Why? Because we have conclusive evidence linking you to that bell in question. What? Take it away, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes. The evidence linking to Miss Pavlova and this little glass bell, that would be... Yes! The picture that we just got. If you look at this photograph, you can clearly see, hanging from the darkest collar, the very glass bell in question. The truth has caught up to you, Miss Pavlova. A young man who lost his life last night did so after a truly inauspicious fall. And the cause of that fateful stumble. Your absent feline friend, Darka. I couldn't tell anyone. I'm sorry. Chipping over cat. So basically, this shows that she literally was so trying to cover herself that she was willing to blame it all on Ryunosuke to take the fall. When she says she has her own guilt with her. Yeah, there's like part of me of that there are people who can do that, but I doesn't mean I really like that aspect of people, to be honest. It's one of those things that don't really like. Why don't you tell us now, Miss Pavlova? Tell us exactly what happened last night. It was a little after 1 in the morning. It was so late, I hadn't had time to feed Darka, so I gave her some food.
How do I say the thing?
Oh. Then all of a sudden, she scratched at me and jumped out of my hands. People do say that cats become very anxious and nervous in new environments. She ran so fast, she disappeared through the ventilator before I could stop her.
Wait, what's that? Why is the music playing?
There's no music playing.
I just heard music.
Is that on your end?
Might be on my end. Must have been a website.
Yeah, it must have been a website. Dun, 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 dun. Would you like to buy free stuff? Or I don't know what it, whatever those like weird ads where they play music. And that is how you acquired that rather nasty wound on your back of your hand. I take it? Yes. And I had read the rules on the roll and knew that I was not allowed Dorka with me. Yes, modern science suggests that animals can carry infectious diseases. It's a precaution, really. So I listened and listened, trying to hear if there was some noise in the next cabin. It was very quiet. I was sure someone was there. He must be sleeping. So at that point, you thought it'd be So at that point, you thought it would be safe to lure the kitten back again. By dangling the end of the toy through the ventilator and into the adjoining cabin. Agar always loves this toy, but it didn't work. Nothing worked. I tried using her favorite toy. I tried whistling to her softly, but nothing. She didn't return. So the faint whistling sound Kazuma wrote on his diary was Miss Pavlova trying to retrieve her pet. Cats have a propensity to remain hidden in the shadows when frightened. Yes, so there was nothing I could do. I just had to wait until she had calmed down. But then... I nearly passed out in shock. I heard her cry out and then, oh, it was a dreadful bang. And then afterwards, nothing. It was totally silent. Kazuma-sama was... From the appearance of the brown mark on the floor, it seems likely that you heard was the victim stepped on the glass bell and tripping up. The SS Buria is a large vessel, and even she can pitch and roll violently without warning. If Mr. Asaji was already off balance as a result of the ship lurching when the kitten got under his feet, the combination of unfortunate factors could have easily caused him to fall over. But what came of the kitten afterwards? In the end, I managed to get her to come back through the ventilator. And yet Darker is nowhere to be seen. I must have forgotten to lock my case, and now she's disappeared again. Gracious, that cat is insufferably restless as I am. Well, he knows something about himself at least. When I woke this morning, I heard a young man in the cabin next door of mine had died, and I couldn't bring myself to tell anyone what had happened. I was too scared. Scared that they would send me back. Oh, hold on a minute. What about the snake? You're right. Where is it? If the snake isn't your friend, Miss Pavlova, then whose is it? And where did it come from? What on earth is that dangerous creature doing on board of the ship? Oh? I didn't say? The snake is my friend. His name is Pyrosko. Pyrosko. Hmm? Huh? What? What? That snake belongs to you? He escaped from cage when the alarm sounded. I was looking for him. I did not expect him to find him in here. Yes, how did the snake get into this cabin? But animals are not permitted on board. We are at sea for 1 year. You want to be so long with a close friend, with someone who understands? Couldn't you find someone a little more human? Understands you better? But my dear burly fellow, a gargantuan venomous snake, surely you can't appreciate the danger you're putting everyone in. No venom. Hmm? Roscoe does not have venom. He is harmless, very long, but very gentle. He is adorable like Granny, and currently strangling me to death. It's venomless? Yes, now he's hungry. He is in bad mood. But once I feed him, you will see big smile. I mean, if he's angry, he's currently strangling him to death right now. And you feed him what? Milk, I suppose? Ah, like they say, milk chickens? Ridiculous. Snake that drink milk are only in stupid stories. Let us off his mouth. Big, fat, round mouses. Ah. Oh, so is that what the mousetrap in the passageway out there is for? Of course. How else can I catch my friend's favorite food? Actually, Carl, you've been on cruises before, right?
Yeah.
I was like, how often do you see people talk about mouses and mices on, like rats and mices on ships?
Not often.
So they're like actually thoroughly clean and everything.
Yes.
Well, that's modern day. This is back in like the early 1900s. So I guess like it's more common to find mices still on board, right? I would say.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so that would make some sense actually in this timeline. Nothing says top of the food chain like the look in their eyes right now. Carl, this game became a horror game. Sholmes have no eyes.
Oh.
I refuse to drink milk. It can't hear a whistle. It refuses to drink milk. It can't hear a whistle. It can't climb up a bell cord. It's not even venomous. How the deuce did something inept land a starring role? It is not my fault. I do not make up stories. My parasco has nothing to do with this incident. So that's what happened. That's the truth behind my best friend's tragic death. So we found out why Kazuma's death happened, and now I proved my innocence. But one question remains. Miss Pavlova, I understand the difficult situation you found yourself in, and I do sympathize, but please remember this. A young man lost his life. If you're going to attempt to cover up your guilt with lies, then no matter what's the circumstances, I cannot forgive you. But what are you talking about, Miss Mikitoba? What lies? Miss Pavlova just confessed everything. It was just a series of unfortunate events, an accident. I'm not no great detective like Mr. Sholmes, but I don't have a gift for knowing the truth. But even I can see that was not the truth. Don't you agree, Mr. Naruto? To be perfectly honest, yes. There's a discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story. I'm sure of it. I can't quite put my finger on it. I confess, I was intending to let Scotland Yard deal with my outstanding issues on this matter. Oh? I am only present here for a very specific reason. The truth is, you, Mr. Naruhodo, are simply a distraction. A distraction? I do hope you're not finding your shackles too uncomfortable. God dang it. Not again. When did he do that? Especially as you're there on your wrists as a result of my intervention. I was rather hoping I could resolve matters before we made our next port call. You were, Mr. Sholmes? Yes, but I overlooked one important detail. The deceased young man was a very close companion of yours. Was he not? Yes, Kazuma was my closest friend. I owed him my freedom even. So, Sherlock accidentally put all the blame on friend that he didn't even intend to do, but now he feels a little guilty for that. In that case, we must follow this to its conclusion. No further distractions. You must uncover the real truth here, Naruhodo. Yes, whatever that may be. The key to this is the discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story, I'm sure. If I can chase that down, maybe the truth will become clear. The truth about how you really died. About how that scene in your cabin really came to be. Alright, see what I can do. Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Naruto. So then, shall we begin? Yes. What should we ponder first? Is it the victim who lost his life in the cabin that was bolted shut from the inside? Was this truly an unfortunate accident? Or was it in fact no accident at all? That is what we must establish in the first instance. But we've already established it, haven't we? The man tripped over the kitten that had climbed into his cabin via a ventilator. Tragic, yes, but still an accident. Wait, let's just take a step back. It doesn't make sense if that's really what happened, does it? I'm going to have to ask you to spell it out for me, I'm afraid. Yes, it's starting to take shape now. There's a clear contradiction between the facts and Miss Pavlova's story here. The evidence is right there in Kazuma's cabin. It's undeniable. His death couldn't have possibly have been a mere accident. Really? Let's just show our hand, Naruhodo. Time to present the evidence. The evidence that proves unequivocally that the victim's death was no mere accident. Carl.
Yes.
Do you remember this part?
No.
Do you think it's the ship's log where it has no entries from 2 a.m. onward?
Maybe.
Or was it the... I don't think it's the paper seal. I think it's that one, yeah.
Yes.
We're trying to make... Oh. Nope, that was the wrong one. I think. Okay, so it was the Russian writing. I was either, it was hung up on either one of those two. Well, more than Mr. Sholmes does anyway. Back for a bit. No worries, Grace. We're at the end of this case right now. We're finishing up this Miss Pavlova's story. It's a sad story, unfortunately. Yes! The truth is clearly recorded in this photographic print. There is no way Mr. Asoji could have left this message on the floor. The script, it's Russian, isn't it? Indeed it is. The word written means wardrobe. I see what you mean. Most people would leave a dying message in their native language, Japanese in this case. But maybe he was studying Russian. It is a simple language. He could have picked it up very fast. It doesn't seem likely. That's actually not the point. It makes no difference whether he knew Russian or not. Sorry? What do you mean? Exactly what I said before. There is no way that Mr. Soji could have left this message on the floor. The reason why is clearly explained here. Damage to the cervical vertebrae resulted in instant death. Instant death. Which means, after the victim fell on the floor, he couldn't possibly have written anything, because he was already dead. That's not the only reason either. There's something else we found in Mr. Soji's cabin. A remnant of something that couldn't have possibly been there if what Mr. Pavlova told us was true. What? So Susato-san has noticed it too then. Putting this message on the floor aside is something else that gives the truth away. Another piece of evidence that proves no action at all. In other words... Anyway, Grace, how did you get everything? Did you get everything you need from your shopping trip?
Like no guide after area stuff.
That makes sense. I'm gonna go quickly to the bathroom. Give me like a minute. Carl, entertain people, or James, entertain people.
Oh, Grace is here. Or was. Not shopping, but I got some stuff from a friend. We'll get rest later. Just okay. That sounds sus. Oh, monitor and sound phone. Nice. Sound foam. Are you trying to mask sounds? That sounds sus. It's definitely sus. What are you trying to hide?
What's to do?
All right, I'm back. Let's see. Not shopping, but I got some stuff from a friend. Get the race later. Shh, James. Getting the goods. Grace got the goods. Got a monitor and the sound phone. Ooh, nice. Grace, congrats on getting the sound phone finally. Also, probably gonna hook up your monitor, I'm guessing, next week, right? It's like a third monitor now, because you got your TV and everything. Alright, so... Putting evidence proves that this was no accident. In other words... Not today, yeah. Yeah, I figured, like, you're gonna be planning streaming soon, so I figured you're not doing it.
Yes.
God dang it, it's the wrong one. Ooh, sound foam is a 99% sus? Jesus. Grace, I think your friend ripped you off, by the way. You should totally get your money back. Alright, I made 2 mistakes here. I mean, I don't remember this part. That's the problem. Now I'm getting to a point where I barely remember this. Oh, right. Okay, so here's the thing. It says paper seal that was written in Japanese, and not sure the Russian crew can actually read it. That's the evidence right there. Nope, that's not it. Never mind. It was free, so? It was free? Well, then you need to get your free sum back then, again. What was it? Is it this newspaper?
Yes.
Nah, I'm making mistakes. Great. What was it? What was it? Oh, right. I thought about this earlier and I forgot about it. And I completely blanked on it. It might have just been one of those moments where I was just trying to think of, I thought too far ahead. That's why. Right. It's actually this. Because there's something about it that doesn't make much sense. This piece of broken glass next to the mark on the floor. But that's the glass bell the kitten had around its neck. We already know all about that. It was broken in half. The victim tripped all over the cat and fell. Convenient. 47 and 74. So we already have a satisfying explanation. Where's the flaw in that logic? Unfortunately, there is a very big flaw. A fatal flaw. What? If that's really what happened, then how did the other half of the bell end up back here in this cabin? Yes. Remember what we found in the other half of glass bell in that waste paper basket? Would you care to explain that, Miss Pavlova? Oh no. Both these pieces of evidence clearly point to the same conclusion. That when Asoji died last night in his cabin, there was someone else in the room. And then that same person deliberately arranged the scene to disguise the truth in order to cover up his or her own guilt. Yes, and there was someone else present in Asoji's. You're wasting time. Someone else was there? Yeah, of course, we know this. What are you talking about? Bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. There's no way in or out. Oh, yes. And only other person in cabin when young student died was you.
Yes.
Yes. It's true. I was in the cabin when that happened. You were shut inside the wardrobe, to be precise about the details. But I don't know Russian, and there's no way I could have left that message. Not would have. There's no way you could have left that message. To be precise about the details. Would you mind? Forgive me, my dear fellow. As I was saying, the person in question wrote the word wardrobe in Russian on the floor. In an attempt to incriminate me for the crime, even though I was asleep in there the entire time. And then the same person picked up the broken glass bell that had fallen to the floor for fear of becoming evidence that would show how Mr. Soji really died. But why wouldn't this person have taken all the pieces of the bell anyway, leaving half behind? What was always going to raise questions. Yes, well, it was past 1 o'clock in the early hours of the morning. The cabin could have been quite dark. The single lamp, small lamp, suspended in the ceiling would have been barely have casted any light on around to the floor around there, indubitably. Indubitably. Little wonder then that the culprit failed to notice a fragment of the tiny item. Ah, my hydrate is sus. All suspect me, don't you? Seaman Straganov. Nina is a woman of sea. She is daughter of strong sailor. 2 years ago, they noticed her dancing skills and she went away to join ballet company. Thanks for hydrate. James. But before, she was a dancer on this ship, a member of ship's band. You do not accuse a simple ship's angel of being criminal. Ah, so that's it. You say that when young student died, Nina was there in his captain? But that's not that's possible. I give my tooth. Well, this is almost interesting. Interesting. And why would you give your tooth, pray? How could you be so sure? You are a great detective, you should know. The sock tooth and eyes cabin bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. Nobody could go in cabin, not Nina, not anyone. Or you want to tell me that the killer can walk through locked doors? Yet, it's impossible. He's right. But wait, I've read about this in the Great Detective stories, that often people tie thread around door latches so they could open and close them outside. Thread? Are you stupid? These bulkheads are not bond doors. Certainly not. These are watertight doors, as one could expect to find on any modern steamship. Constructed of heavy steel with no gap in sight, no threads, or needles or magnets could have been used. No, of course not. Thought so too. But Naruhodo suggested it earlier, so... Susato-san, how could you shift it onto me like that? So, Seaman Stragonov has a valid point. The cabin door couldn't have been bolted shut from the outside. Not necessarily. What? I put it to you that I could bolt this cabin door without laying a finger on it. And in this very cabin, we can see the traces of the method I have in mind have been used before. I don't believe it. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, I believe you know what I mean, don't you? A way to shut the bolt of the cabin door from the outside? One way does spring to mind, yes. Do you really know what Mr. Sholmes means, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, and so should you. Because we've seen it happen. Indeed, we have. Would you care to do the honors, Mr. Naruhodo? Point out the telling of the sighting method that used the cabin door to lock from the outside.
Yes.
Look at the bookcase there. See how the books and things have been toppled over? That must have happened when the ship made its emergency stop before. Yes, that's right. It's a very powerful vessel after all. When the engines are thrown in reverse, a violent jolt goes across the ship. Any small object aren't fastened down or bound to fall over. I believe, yes, it's what's known as the force of inertia, acting on the objects. That's some physics right there, people. Alright, school. Is there nothing Susato-san doesn't know? Or that isn't in her book, at least? Well, whatever it's called, the same force that pushed over those books on the bookcase also made something else in the cabin move. The bolt on the cabin door. It was very obvious just after the emergency stop that the ship made earlier. We had come to this cabin not long before, and we hadn't bolted the door. And then... Hello? Is there anybody in there? Shout if you need assistance. That sounds like... Inspector Hosonaga. Oh, yes. That's it. When the ship stopped suddenly, the bolt flew across and locked the door. Yes, it's made of metal, and it's small and light enough to be moved by the ship's sudden change of speed. Or the force of inertia, or whatever you call that. Are you trying to say that last night after Mr. Soji was killed, SS Buria made another emergency stop? When I woke up this morning, I looked around the cabin and I thought it looked a little odd. All the books on the shelves had toppled over and all the ornaments. It was almost as if someone had run their hand across the shelves and deliberately knocked everything over. Yes, I remember that. And I stood up all up again, didn't I? And then when we came to the cabin, we were surprised to see the same thing in there. All the books and everything had toppled over just like in Mr. Asoji's cabin. Oh my. Do you have anything to say about this, Mr. Pavlova? Miss Pavlova. Are you out of your mind? You say Buria made an emergency stop? It does seem a little far-fetched. How could that possibly have happened? Unless you're saying the culprit is actually someone from the engine room. Oh, it is simple enough. Are you forgetting the button in the passageway outside? Use the triggered the emergency alarm. Yes, of course. There was a notice, wasn't there, telling you only to press the button in times of emergency. On dark nights when the fog is dense, the captain cannot afford to rely on eyes of his lookout alone. Hence the placement of a number of buttons around the vessel to allow any crewmen to raise their alarm. The sort of the button one is almost compelled to press to satisfy one's curiosity.
How is that helpful if it's accessible to people on the interior of the ship where they wouldn't be able to see outwards?
If there's windows outside, maybe. I don't know. What? Wait, it was you? When the button is pressed, two things happen in the interest of safety. The emergency alarm bell rings and the vessel comes to a complete stop. As indeed it did a little earlier today. Mr. Sholmes, surely it wasn't you who... As I always say, a button has but one purpose in life. To be pressed, whatever the occasion. He almost sounds almost proud of himself. How dare you mess with the ship? I report you to Captain. You're in much trouble now. Now. I'm sure Audrey can wait until later. Let us not overlook the fact that we have now learnt a valuable lesson. When the vessel makes an emergency stop, the bolts on the cabin door slide close. So, what we must now consider... Yes, it all comes down to one thing now. Last night, after what happened to Mr. Soji, did this ship make an emergency stop or did it not? You're idiots! Buria is a huge ship with many passengers. If we can make an emergency stop even in the middle of the night, it would be chaos everywhere. What are your thoughts, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, it's certainly possible that some kind of emergency happened last night. We have evidence to support that idea. Really? What evidence, Mr. Naruhodo? Fascinating. Do tell us, my good man. What evidence promotes the theory of the emergency stop vessel stopping at last night? Yeah, it was the ship's log was the one. I'm double checking so I don't have to go through this, but it's the ship's log.
Yes.
Seaman Stragonov, it's your duty to patrol the first class area of the ship. Isn't that right? Ah, that is correct. Why? In the ship's log here, this would be where you record the details of your duties. What are you doing with that? That is mine. You rather carelessly left it at the top of a little makeshift burrow into the passageway out there, young fellow. But as a responsible passengers, we took it into our care with the mind of returning it to you later. I left it there on purpose. That is where I put it always. The point is, looking at what you usually record, it's clear that under normal circumstances you would write the phrase "nothing to report" every 30 minutes. But from 2 o'clock last night until first light this morning, nothing was recorded at all. Nothing was recorded in the log? That is... because nothing happened. But if nothing happened, you would normally write nothing to report, wouldn't you? Also, his hand went through her. Indeed so, which tells us that shortly after 2 a.m., something happened. Here aboard the SS Burro, Biria. Something sufficiently significant to make you forget to fill the ship's log, in fact. Are you suggesting that the ship really did make an emergency stop in the middle of the night? Stop talking rubbish! If I'm perfectly honest, I find that a little hard to believe myself. Oh, why? Well, because if something as major as an emergency stop really had happened, surely all of us would have noticed. That's very true. Thanks to the emergency stop we experienced earlier, we all know what it feels like right now. The ship lurched so violently, the alarm bell was so loud. Can't imagine anybody would sleep through that, even if it happened in the dead of night. Oh, no, that's a good point. What of the throbbing? Sorry? What do you mean? Your head, man. The throbbing on your head since this morning. We have all suffered with it. Huh. Oh, yes. I have had a headache, you're right. In fact, I haven't been feeling myself when I woke up today. Nor have I. My head has been feeling heavy ever since dawn. Yes, you've all been afflicted, haven't you? As I just expected. That's right, my head's been throbbing today too. And since eating dinner yesterday evening, everything just has felt sort of hazy. Can't really remember anything that happened after I climbed back inside the wardrobe. Then the first thing I noticed this morning was a throbbing pain in my head. And I had already been dragged out of the wardrobe. And had those handcuffs put on me at that point. Why didn't I wake up when all of this was happening to me? Tell me, Mr. Naruto. You boarded this vessel as a stowaway, didn't you? Oh, well, yes. Sorry. The stowaway class of accommodation doesn't usually include meals. Why did you survive on? What did you survive on? Well, Kazuma looked after me. He was always happy to share his meals. So you enjoyed some of the whole roast chicken dish that was served yesterday evening, I take it? Yes, in fact, I had all of it. Kazuma wasn't fond of chicken. Oh, really? So the victim didn't eat any of the chicken at all? That's right, he didn't touch it. Is that relevant? My dear fellow, does that not strike you? Mr. Sholmes, do you mean to say that there was something wrong with the chicken? I do. No, really? Is that really true? Didn't me prepare for all the passengers last night. I'm giving you a Scottish accent. Last night had been pampered with. Tempered with by the addition of soporific design to induce a very deep slumber to those who consumed it. A sleeping drug. Do you mean whoever did this laced every meal with a sleeping drug so no one would notice the ship's emergency stop? Mr. Naruto, of course, that's not what Mr. Sholmes means. That's a far-fetched idea. Precisely. Lacing every meal of every passenger on board with a soporific drug would certainly be impossible. Unless, that is, every single member of the crew was a conspirator. What? Mr. Sholmes? Well, seaman. I'm sorry to say that any more deception in this matter will get you nowhere. If you refuse to talk, there would have been an inquiry made Through the shipping company, of course. And were that to happen, every member of the crew and the captain himself would be hauled over the coals for aiding and abiding a renegade. Please, no more. I will tell everything. I cannot make problems like this for everyone anymore. These crewmen are your former comrades, I believe. Yes, so when I decided to run away, I asked them to help me. We all agreed to help everyone together. She threw everything, away everything. Her fame, in the ballet, Mother Russia. We wanted to help her angel. I don't believe it. You're right, we put sleeping drug in chicken last night. Yes, I remember now. I did notice chewing on a lump of something strange and bitter at one point. We did not make all drug. How do you say? Dissolved. Talk about heavy seasoning. At midnight, in waters where near Shanghai, we brought our angel on board. She was helped by comrade on shore with a small fishing boat. While all passengers on the Beria slept soundly, thanks to the almost magical effects of the slumber-inducing potion that evening meals had contained. So if that's what happened, the only person awake on the ship last night were the crew, people who disliked chicken, and the newly boarded passenger, Miss Pavlova. That means it would have been possible for you. You could have used the emergency stop trick to lock Kazuma's cabin door. But how does that make sense? Surely every cabin door would have ended up locking in that case, and there would have been complete chaos. Oh, I wouldn't say so. What? Of course. Just like us, all other passengers would have eaten their evening meal of chicken in their cabins, after which they had been overwhelmed by the tiredness because of the sleeping drug. Quite, and accordingly, all passengers were already in their cabins for the night. Yes. The overwhelming majority of passengers would habitually sleep with their cabin doors bolted anyway. And so, not one of them would have found it remarkable to find the door locked in the morning.
In the morning.
In the morning.
My ship leaves in the morning.
My ship leaves in the morning. In summary, in order to fasten the bolt of a single cabin door on the ship, the culprit brought the entire vessel to an emergency stop in the early hours of the morning. You have talked long enough. You have talked long enough. Said many things. What is point? The point is what I said earlier. There was somebody else present on the scene when the victim lost his life last night. Someone who left a message in Russian on the floor in an attempt to incriminate another. Someone who had tried to desperately hide the broken fragments of glass that would reveal the culprit's identity. And someone who abused the ship's emergency stop procedure in order to lock a door. All told, a busy night. But... I don't know any about this. Just a little girl. You like to speak with your long English words and explain your clever ideas. But I am a sailor, and sailors don't listen to long, boring stories we don't believe. Sailors like me, we only trust what we see with our eyes. A laudable trait. What? I'm quite of the same disposition, my good man. Observation to me is everything. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? Do you hear it? A accusatory cry of a guilt on the wind. What accusatory cry of guilt? Sorry, you've lost me. Proof of involvement, man. You can't hear such calling within your ears? No, you must hear it with your eyes. For observation is the basis of all deduction. What are you talking about? I believe the time has come for one final logic and reasoning spectacular to expose the truth. So, Mr. Naruhodo, your assistance if you do please. With what exactly, Mr. Sholmes? The observation, my dear fellow, just as I said, of these two prevaricators. Why big words? Observation. If you remember, Mr. Naruhodo, we know that somebody tried to fabricate evidence, don't we? By tampering with the scene of Asoji's death. What we're looking for are some traces of evidence that these two, that one of these two was there when it happened. Precisely. You are delightfully quick to grasp my meaning. Alright, I'll see what I can see. So we're looking for a trace of evidence that shows someone else was there last night when Kazuma died. Somebody inked.
Yes.
Seaman Straganov, you seem to have quite a large purple stain on the back of your white uniform there. Eh? Yes, I, don't know where that dirt comes from. So nothing in particular comes to mind about the stain. What are you trying to say? It would appear the significance of the stain has escaped your attention, Seaman. Allow me to make it plain. A very large purple stain on the back of Seaman Straganov's uniform. I think what made it is clear. Indeed, it is. So, Mr. Naruhodo, present the evidence that proves it. My pleasure. Alright then, the evidence that proves the stain on the back of Straganov really is.
Yes.
Yes, it's this photograph, and the ink it shows. That's what caused the stain on your uniform. Ink? A rather unusual color of ink, purple. Ah, the penny drops at last. Now you see the significance. The Russian word on the floor next to the victim's body was written in the purple ink. And the stain on the back of the uniform is ink, the exact same color. If the ink had been dry, it couldn't have possibly have stained uniform in that way, which means you must have been present in the cabin in the moments immediately after the ink was spilled. Alright, yes. It was me, I did it. Everything. I arranged everything in dead student's cabin to make it look like Robert Wardrobe Man did it. And then I pressed button to make Boria do emergency stop and both cabin doors shut. I did everything so no one would suspect our Angel. Biff, please. Don't worry, Angel. Let me do talking. Yeah, it was after 1 in the morning. I was on duty patrolling past his way. Then our Angel came to me. She was white, like sheet. Biff, please, you must help me. I went with her. The door to cabin 1 was open. When I looked inside, I saw student boy on floor. What happened here? Please don't tell anyone. My little one, my little furry friend. Everything that happened in cabin is like Angel told you. The kitten escaped. The kitten escaped the ventilator into Mr. Soji's cabin. Then he tripped over and broke his neck when he fell on the floor. Yes, that is right. So after the incident, when the cat ran away, Miss Pavlova then visited the cabin next to hers, only to find the occupant lying lifeless on the floor. She said that she was worried when she heard something falling on floor, and that's when she went to look. No, Angel? The door was not locked. She opened to look, and you already know what happened after. There's just one thing, if you wouldn't mind. What? When you went to Miss Sosoji's cabin, Miss Pavlova, was he already dead? Why? I already told you. When Nina opened the door to the cabin locked, I was asking Miss Pavlova. Well, Miss Pavlova? Oh?
Yes, that was right. I saw him. It was dark and he was wearing black, but he was on the floor, not moving. I was scared.
I understand, and I believe you. So, is that finally it now? Have we discovered the real truth about Kazuma's death at last? Ah, something very nearly slipped my mind, Mr. Sholmes. This photograph. Yes, I took it myself, you know. The cause of death was a broken neck, therefore the victim died instantly. And the unfortunate incident that precipitated these events, a kitten on which the victim stumbled. However, if those were the facts, there is one particular area in the photograph that seems to me somewhat unnatural. His headband is not flowing. What do you mean, unnatural? What are your thoughts on the matter, Mr. Naruto? Oh, well... He was tripped and fell. By something terrible stroke of bad luck, he broke his neck. Part of this photograph seems unnatural. I would assume it's the ink writing, I think. Oh wait, no.
He died instantly. How did he? Well, they already said that the person framed the faked writing.
Yeah. There's actually a thing because apparently when you die, what does your body naturally do, James?
You poop yourself?
Well, I mean, you could, yes, but all limbs and all muscle just turn off, right? In a sense.
Yeah, your body would go limp, I assume, and then rigor mortis will set in over a couple hours.
Yeah, so what he's pointing at is not just the pointing of the finger. It's because Kazuma is clenching his fist. Alright, if he really fell due to an unfortunate accident, then his fist doesn't seem quite white. The exact same thought occurred to me. In the fall, one instinct is to open the palms flat. Yet here we see the victim with his left hand tightly balled in the fist. Almost, you might say, as though he were gripping something. What do you mean? Simply that I took the liberty of investigating the victim's fist a short while ago. Did. And what, pray, do you imagine I found there, my dear fellow? Mr. Sholmes, show us, please. Why, of course, my dear madame. Would I keep you in suspense? Yes, you would. This is what I found. Oh, a crescent moon with a little gemstone in the middle? Yes, you're right. A crescent moon. It's very pretty, but what does it tell us? It tells us nothing. I'm not quite so sure. That crescent moon looks familiar somehow. I'm sure I've seen it somewhere before. Observation, my dear fellow. Mr. Naruhodo, that is the key. What? The truth is the tantalizing close. How did that crescent moon come to Kazuma's clenched fist? This is the final clue, the last piece of the puzzle. Ask yourself, young fellow, what does this crescent moon mean, and what significance has it? And observe, find your answer with your own eyes. Dragunov. Something is here, but something is not.
Yes.
Miss Pavlova, I noticed that on your ear. Not even though you're wearing a metal earring, the decorative part of it seems to be missing. The little link holding it must have been broken, I suppose. Eh? What? But looking at your other ear, I noticed a crescent moon. I don't believe it! Now, the missing crescent moon has been found in the victim's clenched fist. Clearly there is one logical conclusion. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Naruto? Yes. Miss Pavlova, Mr. Soji must have grasped that crescent moon and pulled it from your ear, perhaps just moments before he fell on the floor. In other words, last night in Mr. Soji's cabin, you witnessed the moment when the victim fell with your own eyes. In fact, you were quite literally at arm's length from him. But then the question is, why did Mr. Soji do that? Why did he pull your earring from your ear and then hold it in his clenched fist during his final moments? Oh, no. Angel. No one can protect you now. Please, Miss Pavlova, tell us the truth. Last night, what did you do to Kazuma? When I think about everything happened yesterday, it was too much. Running away, the fishing boat in the middle of the night, trying to climb into this huge ship. And then, when I was at last in this cabin, and I could relax after this horrible day. Narka, wait! I couldn't believe it when she disappeared through the ventilator. I tried to call her with a little whistle. I tried weaving her favorite toy, but nothing worked. That girl would not come back. What are you doing here? What are you doing here at this time of night, Inspector? Oh? I'm sorry. I thought it was a friend of mine. The young man from your country was very polite and kind. He helped me find Darka and he promised not to tell anyone. But then, when I had my friend in arm's length, I was going to leave the man's cabin. Just a moment. Sorry, but... Oh, yes? I'm sure I know your face. I've seen you somewhere before. Ah, of course. You're Nikolina Pavlova. Aren't you? The Russian ballerina.
Huh? No. I don't know that name.
Heart nearly stopped when he said that.
He knew who I was. How could this man from the land far away east know a Russian ballerina?
Yes, I saw your performance in Japan. It was a beauty of a ballet. Made a deep impression on me. But what are you doing on the ship? I'm sure I read your ballet company was performing in Shanghai at the moment.
I can't fool him. I have to tell him the truth. I hope he doesn't tell anyone. I have no other choice.
I see. So you've run away.
Please keep my secret. Don't tell anyone.
Give me a moment. I could use another opinion here.
He's going to pull the cord. He's going to tell the captain. Why did I think I could trust him? Then it happened. Everything at once. I was only a second, but it felt like forever. Wait! I shouted. And then... Doctor jumped out of my arms, down the young man's feet, and then... As he turned around to look at me, I pushed him. Don't even know why. I don't know why I did it. I just was so scared. And I had to stop him from telling anyone about me.
And that's when you went to fetch help. Seaman Straganov, who was on duty in the passageway. I heard Nina cry out and thud on the floor, so I ran to her. She was standing in the cabin door shaking like a leaf. She looked at me and said,
Help me, Biff. If they find out I will be, please, I have nowhere to go.
So you decided to help, and that's when you arranged things in the Kazuma cabin to make it look like I did it, so that no one would suspect a passenger at the cabin next door. Duh, yes. I went to the cabin and I looked around to make sure there was nothing to show Nina was there. Then I found Storaway in the wardrobe, still sleeping. Right, that's when he found me.
So you worked out the plan to lay the blame on the stowaway.
I closed the wardrobe drawers, I put back strange paper sign. Luckily for me, that's the only reason Susato-san started to believe me when I said I was innocent. I dragged man's body to good place, used ink to spilling to write on floor. I wrote, so that person would find him, who found him would look inside the wardrobe to find Storaway. And tell me, what of the glass bell?
It was just by my feet, so I picked it up.
I see.
But it was dark in cabin. I didn't notice the other half.
Then Angel went back to her cabin and I finished the job. By pressing the emergency alarm button in the passageway? Ah, yes. Accordingly, the Beria did indeed come to an emergency halt at a little after 2 a.m. Thus, enticing the bolt of the cabin door to slide shut, creating the locked room mystery. There's still one thing I don't understand, Miss Pavlova.
What?
Well, you said that you told Kazuma the fact that you'd run away from your homeland, and it's because you were worried that he was going to tell the captain that you pushed him. Isn't that right?
Yes.
But even if he had pulled the bell cord and called for the captain of the ship, aren't you friends with every member of the crew? Why would that have been the problem?
It was what he said first that made me scared.
What he said first? What are you doing? What are you doing here at this time of night, Inspector? Oh. I'm sorry. I thought he was a friend of mine.
He said an inspector was his friend.
He who meaning me, who was supposed to be acting as his bodyguard.
I thought if police knew me, they would arrest me. So before he could pull Belcourt, I... May I stop you a moment, please, Miss Pavlova? It's just doesn't seem to make sense. I mean, was Mr. Soji really gonna pull the Belcourt? I don't know. What? What do you think, Mr. Naruto? Well, I'm not Kazuma, so I can't know for certain, but... he was a man of his word. If he told you he wouldn't give your secret away, then he wouldn't have done it. Oh, he was walking over to it. He was going to pull the cord. He was going to make them send me back. Well, Mr. Naruto, the day's work is not yet done, it seems. There is one more deduction to make. What? Another deduction?
Tax deduction?
No, it's just that with this, there is one thing left that we have to prove. That was he really going to take action on the moment? Basically, was Kazuma really going to tell Inspector Hosonaga? Can we determine whether the man's gaze was directed? First, consider the victim's location within the cabin. That's easy. I remember every detail of that room. I mean, yes, I spent quite a lot of time in the wardrobe, but still. That cabin was been my home for this entire voyage. So, this is how the cabin looked at last night when Miss Pavlova visited Kazuma-sama. Yes, exactly how it was. Are you ready then, Naruto? Yes, there's one thing I've learned today. It's that simple gazes reveal all manners of truth. And not only that, in order to draw this right conclusion, you can't afford to put out even a little bit where you follow the gaze where it stands. So when he turned away from Miss Pavlova, what exactly was Kazuma looking at? So apparently, if you examine the bed, you get like an achievement for this in the Steam and PS4 version. But there was actually one other thing that he was looking at. Actually.
Take that!
I do like this song though, Carl. Considering everything that has happened last night.
Juggled.
Huh? What'd you say, Char?
Got juggled.
Certainly, it may have looked as Kazuma was going to ring the bell cord. Yes, however... What? He is directly beside the bell cord. The wardrobe. The wardrobe? And more importantly, what was inside the wardrobe? The man's great friend, sleeping soundly. Miss Pavlova, please, think back very carefully. That were Mrs. Zoji's exact words, right? Last night. Give me a moment. I could use another opinion here. Another opinion? Yes, but not from a member of crew. No, Mr. Zoji intended to consult his close friend on the matter. To see if between them they might be able to help in some way, no doubt. Oh no. Sadly, can't know the truth, certainly for certain now. It's too late for that. But I wish you made sure that what Mr. Soji was looking at. Things may have ended very differently if you had. Miss Pavlova. I want to thank you for finally admitting the truth. But unfortunately, the truth is, a man lost his life because of what you did. And that will never change. I hope you'll never forget that. I'm sorry. Really, I'm so sorry.
have I done? And so, at long last, the mystery surrounding the tragic accident on the SS Beria was finally laid to rest. A tragic way to end the case, because we lost a friend. But that's what happens. What will happen to Miss Pavlova now then? Once we reach Great Britain, she'll be handed over to the British police in Scotland Yard. What about the fact that she ran away from Russia? Won't Russians try to repatriate her? Bleh. Apparently, the English detective can speak to the immigration office and sort all that out. Also, how did Hosanaka get all unbruised? Mr. Sholmes can do that? She won't be going back to Russia then. No, I don't think so. Even if she wanted to return in the future, I doubt she would be able to. She ran away, so now she's an exile for life. See. I'm sorry. Seaman Straganov? I wanted to help our angel no matter what, but I didn't think about you, about how you lost a good friend. I will go with Nina. I will give myself to British police. It's kind of you. In the meantime, thank you for letting me go free again. Kazuma's death feels like such a waste, but... well, do what you can for Miss Pavlova, won't you? Duh. Well, I'm afraid we need to pack now. We're due to arrive in Hong Kong tomorrow. As such, it pains me. I'm going to have to hand you over to the consul to arrange your passage back to Japan. Yeah. I did stow away after all. Couldn't really expect any different. So, you should get back to your cabin now. Looks like my study tour to Great Britain's over before it has even begun then. To think only days ago Kazuma and I were laughing about it together how we tear up the streets of London. But that's like seems like a distant memory now. Oh? What's that? Is it someone weeping? Sato-san? Naruhodo-san, I didn't know you had returned. Oh, well, I haven't been back long. Inspector Hosanaka told me I should pack, you know, ready to leave the ship tomorrow and all that. Still can't believe this has happened. Can't believe someone's life can be over just like that. Sato-san. He had such grand ideas to visit Great Britain, so many dreams, and now they've been cruelly taken away, just as he has. I thought I could never forgive the person responsible. But now, now we know the truth, that it was just an accident, just a silly series of mishaps. It's just too much, Naruhodo-san. It's just too much. Yes, I know. I wish there was something I could say. Inspector. My duty was to see Soji-san safely to Great Britain, but I failed. And caused his two closest friends great pain and suffering as a result. I've never let everyone down. And I will do anything to make up for my terrible blunder. Nobody blames you, Inspector. And I'm free again, now, at least. Huh? Surprise, Mr. Naruhodo. What is the meaning of this? Oh, what trifling manner. Simply put that in my head, I think I shall always picture you wearing those shackles. Without them, the balance seems all wrong. It's just distracting. Sorry? So I decided to restore them, for old time's sake, shall we say. You are a story, after all. He thinks this is funny. Mr. Sholmes. We do appreciate all your assistance. I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Not at all. Not at all. And though it's a little late, I may offer my sincere condolences. The loss of your companion is truly heartrending. I hope that you will be able to fulfill some of his aspirations in his honor. I'm afraid that won't be possible. We shall be in disembarking at next port in Hong Kong. We have to return to Japan and make a full report about everything that has happened. What? Wait a minute. It's just me that has to go back, isn't it? I mean, I was a stowaway. The terms of this study tour were negotiated by the Department of Justice in both Great Britain and Japan. It was to be one lawyer and one assistant. Was to be? In the light of Mr. Soji's unfortunate death, I'm afraid the study tour can't no longer go ahead. Oh no, don't care for me, but where's Susato-san? My dear fellows, the majority of the problems have an extremely simple solution, you know. All you require is one lawyer, and the study tour can continue, surely. Don't call me Shirley. But there is no one else with the necessary qualifications, Mr. Sholmes. We know of no other lawyer. Qualifications, you say? Any qualifications obtained in your own country will be a little value in Great Britain, I'm afraid. Oh? But anyway, the voyage in London still promises a good month of time. Ample opportunity, I would say, to find yourselves another suitable lawyer. Yes. Miss Susato? Yes? Do you think, perhaps, I might be able to do it? Huh? You're not a lawyer. But you're not a lawyer, Mr. Naruto. Oh, unless... Are you studying law? No, I'm not, but... I'm sorry. In that case, I don't think there's even a chance it could work. But as I said, there is still more than a month before we reach England's shores. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruto? Yes, I have a month to which to study to learn what I must do to become a lawyer in Great Britain. Mr. Naruto, that's ridiculous. Are you seriously suggesting anybody could learn all that in just 40 days? There's only one way to find out. I would work my fingers to the bone, Inspector, every single day. Will you let me try? And if, by the time we reach Great Britain, I haven't learned enough to be recognized as a lawyer, I'll take whatever punishment it's deemed appropriate. But why you put yourself in such a difficult position? For Kazuma. He said that there was something he had to do in Great Britain, and that he would sacrifice anything to make it happen. He was passionate about it. Can't let all that passion just come to nothing. And anyway, it's for my own benefit too. I will become a lawyer. I have to. What do you say, Mr. Susato? I think it's a wonderful idea. Thank you. So, what does our speckled inspector friend have to say? Are you serious? One lawyer and one assistant. The numbers are indisputable. No, it's madness. No, this is Sparta. Yet fascinating, wouldn't you agree? Fascinating. Duty and rules are a dull routine of existence that we abhor. Give us interest. Give us fascination. Speak for yourself. Besides, qualifications are no measure of a man. What matters is his character, no? And you've witnessed ample evidence of this man's exemplary character today with your own eyes. From the early hours of this morning until this very moment now. Despite contending with the passing of his close companion, and despite the accusation of guilt, this man has showed resourcefulness, intelligence, and, above all, courage. Very well. I'll think of a clever way to word my report to the Department of Justice. Spectre. After all, I did make a promise, didn't I? I said that I'd do anything at all to make up for my shortcomings here. Oh, thank you, Spectre. If you'll excuse me, I must pay a visit to the captain's quarters, I think. I need to discuss what to do next, and how best to make my report. Are you really prepared to attempt this, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, I'm going to try. I wonder, would you consider teaching me what I need to know, everything about being a lawyer? I would be delighted to help you. I am a judicial assistant after all. Thank you. And, Mr. Naruhodo? I'd like you to take charge of this. What? Me? Are you sure? I'm sure it's what Kazuma would have wanted. Its name is Karuma. It's a great sword that has been in the Soji clan for generations. Very well, I accept. I'll treasure it. Always. So then, Mr. Sato, it seems we'll be working together for some time to come yet. It'll be an honor, Mr. Naruhodo. And for the next 40 days, I shall grant you a single minute of freedom. We shall fill every spare moment to study. Yes, that's exactly what I need. But before we begin, I have the earnest favor to ask of you. Yet, goodness, what is it? Please throw me to the ground. 3 times. Excuse me? What? I should never have doubted you. You were Kazuma-sama's closest friend. Of course you would never have done anything to hurt him. That should have been obvious for me from the start. But I allowed suspicion to get the better of me. You mean gullibleness? And no matter how upset I was feeling, it was completely unforgivable behavior. No, you were in shock. You just found about me stowing away and the cabin door was locked. No! Won't make you make excuses for me. Whatever the circumstances, I should never have thrown you. And that's not just once, but 5 times. Ha! That number keeps creeping up, doesn't it? Please, you must. Just take hold of me and throw me. Do it. Don't even think about it. No. I don't even know how. I've never thrown anyone in my life. Very wise, Naruhodo. It isn't a skill one acquires without considerable training. Oh, Mr. Sholmes? Observe your throwing techniques several times with great interest. I confess I wasn't most impressed. When did he see that? I presume that would be the form of Japanese wrestling. Oh, well, in a way. It's not wrestling, but my own interpretation of an ancient jujitsu technique. Apparently it's called the Susoto takedown. It leaves your head swimming. Believe me. How beguiling. I'm a practitioner of combat arts myself. I am somewhat of an accomplished boxer, you what, mate? There he goes again, dancing around again.
Did you just punch her in the head?
What?
Oh, it looked like you punched her in the head.
Yeah, it does, kinda. Wait, let me see. Yeah, it goes through her head. It goes behind her head. I wonder if you would be so kind to instruct me on the technique of your arresting throw. Yes, that'd be an honor. I'll be honored. Then let us not dally. Demonstrate your might, dear madame. Oh, of course. Are you ready, Mr. Naruto? Sorry. Yeah. Again. As you can see, you have to throw from the abdomen. Oh yes, arresting indeed. And that is what you term the Susato takedown, is it? Actually, no. That was a Susato squash.
Amazing that she didn't kill you.
Yeah, at least not. Okay, that one was more comedy based, but the rest of it was just like, eh. In my groggy state of consciousness, a scene from an evening recently spent with Kazuma flickered into my mind. Karuma? Brief moment with a pause there. That's right. It's a prized sword that has been passed down through generations of the Soji clan. I can't believe you managed to get permission to bring it with you. I mean, taking a katana on your study tour is more than a little irregular, surely. Yes, but don't call me Shirley. A Japanese man's sword is his soul, Ryunosuke. I can't be parting from my katana. Karuma guides me. I truly believe that. So its name compels its wielder to slice evil in two. Not that you would need much compelling. On that subject, there's something very important that I have to do in Great Britain, and I'll sacrifice anything to make it happen. I'd appreciate you seeing it through with me. Of course I will. Whatever it is, I'll see it through to the end with you. I knew you wouldn't let me down. And that important thing he had to do, I still don't know what that was. But I'm going to see the place for myself and work it out. Great Britain's capital, London. And that is the end of chapter 2. A long chapter, honestly. It seriously is a little too long in my opinion. But what can you do? But with that, we are done, and now we're going to episode 3, The Adventure of the Runaway Room, which is something we will do in the next session, which is maybe next week, maybe a couple weeks later. It all depends, because after this point, I will say this is where I will start being blind again. I would not know what happens afterwards. Carl, you know what happens after episode 2?
Yes, but I don't remember the details though.
Alright, cool. So, well, we're kind of going in blind for this one, so we will see how this goes. I'm assuming these chapters are going to be like a few hours long each anyway, so we'll see how long each one goes and how it all ends. But we're going to episode 3 whenever. I don't know if it's going to be happening next week, because at this point Emoto also doesn't know the rest of the story. The reason why I play this right now without Emoto is because she already knows what happens in episode 2. So episode 3 onward is what we don't know anymore. So that'll be it. But we'll see how it goes. Yep, let me see. How far are you, Carl, now?
Dang. That's the hardest part.
Take a hydrate, Carl.
Already did.
Okay. All right. Because Matt has redeemed this earlier, I will do these really quickly before we switch off to Eternal Darkness. But yeah, James, how'd you feel about the whole case since you saw it from a little bit from start to end? James?
It was interesting.
It was interesting, yeah. There's a lot more to the story. There's a lot more about like last case, why did the female Brit kill her professor and stuff like that. And there's a lot more reasons that are unanswered to this as well, and what will happen to the rest of the crew. But I'm assuming that they will there's ways that there's stuff gonna be happening that are gonna be happening in episode 3 onwards. But we will see what will happen to our friends in a bit. Reverse Hollow Ursaring, and Matt pulled a Zygarde. Another legendary, but not really something I'm going to look forward to use.